Okay, good morning to all of you guys. Good morning. Good morning. As you guys know, we start each one of our classes with meditation, and I'm going to allow you guys to do everything on your own today. Usually, I've been doing chanting and then guiding you in the breathing mindfulness meditation, guiding you in the loving kindness meditation, back to breathing mindfulness, back to the chanting. But then I stripped away the guidance for the breathing mindfulness meditation and the loving kindness meditation. You guys did that yesterday on your own. Well, today, I'm not even going to do the chanting. You guys do the chanting. I'm just going to sit here and chant within my own mind, chanting along with you guys. So you guys do the chanting, you do your own meditation, and then I'll do the ending chanting so you guys know when to come out of the meditation. That'll help you guys. But I think you guys can just do the chanting. Yeah? You guys up for it? Who's up for it? Can you guys do chanting without guidance or you need guidance? Okay, I'll do the chanting then. Okay. Okay. Well, I've been doing it for many, many years, decades. Okay. So I'll do the chanting then. You guys be on your own for meditation and then I'll come out with the chanting. Okay. Arahang Sama Sambuddho Mahakeva Potang Mahakavanhang Apivateyami Savakato Mahakavata Tammo Dhammang Namasami Supatipano Mahakavato Savaka Sangho Sanghang Namami Namo Rasa Bhagavato Arahato Sama Sambuddhassa Namo Rasa Bhagavato Arahato Sama Sambuddhassa Namo Rasa Bhagavato Arahato Sama Sambuddhassa Iti piso Mahakava Arahang Sama Sambuddho Vicacaranang Sammuno Sakato Rokavitu Anutero Purisa Dhamma Sati Satatawa Manusanang Poto Bhagavati สัมมาสัมพุทโธมหาเกวาโอตังมหาเกวันนังอภิวาเตมิ สวากขาโตมหาเกวัตตาธัมโมธัมมังนามัสสามิสุปฏิปันโนมหาเกวัตโตสาวกสังโฆสังฆังนามามินะโมตัสสะภะคะวะโตอะระหะโตสัมมาสัมพุทธัสสะนะโมตัสสะภะคะวะโตอะระหะโตสัมมาสัมพุทธัสสะนะโมตัสสะภะคะวะโตอะระหะโตสัมมาสัมพุทธัสสะอิติปิโสมหาเกวาอะระหังสัมมาสัมพุทโธวิจาจารณังสัมมุโนสกาโตโรกาวิตุอนุเตโรปุริสาดามาสติสัตตาตวามนุสนังพุทโธภะคะวะติ Okay, if you guys would like to slowly make your way out of meditation. So over the 5 days of this course, I've been helping you guys to build up to a 30-minute meditation session where you guys can be meditating on your own without any guidance. And that's what we've been doing each day and kind of helping you guys to build up to that. So now that you guys have done this meditation, this was a 30-minute meditation without any guidance whatsoever. It was just me chanting. So now you guys can see that you're able to do this. If this felt like a real stretch for you, then okay, you see where you're at with your practice. If you felt like, wow, this was like pretty straightforward, this was like really quite easy, so to speak, in terms of the time went by pretty readily. Okay, well, you see where you're at with your meditation. But what I'd like to do is to open up to any questions that you guys have before we talk about the topic that I'm planned for today, because oftentimes students are building up their meditation practice and they need help. So I'd like to kind of build into each course a little bit of time where you guys can just ask any and all meditation questions that you guys like, because of course that's an important part of your practice. You wouldn't be able to just meditate your way to enlightenment. You need other things besides meditation, but you wouldn't be able to get to enlightenment without meditation either. So as you guys are building up your practice, you're going to need help at different times. So I'd like to just pause and see if you guys have any questions on meditation. For those of you guys here, if you could use the microphones, and then for anybody online, you can put this into Facebook, YouTube, or Zoom, or you can raise your hand in Zoom and ask any questions that you like. So yes, Judy.
There we go. Just basically about the chanting. How important, I understand the purpose of the chanting, but if you're not doing it prior to and after every time, is that detrimental to your process?
You can actually get to enlightenment without chanting at all. During the lifetime of the Buddha, you had to chant in order to be able to get to enlightenment, because that's how they committed the teachings to the memory. But today we use it as a way to just ease the mind into meditation and get more benefit out of the meditation. And I teach as part of the foundation course. I give you guys those lessons about, setting up mindfulness in front of you, bringing awareness to the mind, to the breath, and these kinds of things. So as long as you're doing those things prior to meditation, you'll be able to get benefit out of your meditation, but you wouldn't have to use chanting. So you could use chanting if you like, or you could just completely say, nope, not interested in chanting, and you'd still be able to get to enlightenment. That's the one thing that I teach that you wouldn't need to do in order to be able to get to enlightenment. That's why it's not part of the core path of the Eightfold Path, where you have right view, right intention, right speech, right action, right livelihood, right effort, right mindfulness, and right concentration. There's no right chanting, right? Because that's not the core path. And the Buddha knew that. That's why he didn't make it as part of the core path. This was a learning device that they used during his life, but it wasn't going to be needed all the way through. So you could choose to do it if you like, and I get a lot of benefit out of it. That's why I teach it, and I have gotten a lot of benefit out of it. That's why I teach it. But it's the one thing that you wouldn't have to do, and you still be able to get to enlightenment. But you still need to set up mindfulness in front of you before you meditate, meaning like bring some awareness to the mind, awareness of the breath, so now you can bring your mind into the meditation where you're not just plopping down into meditation. You're welcome. Any other questions you guys have on meditation? Yep, Leo?
I think I asked it in the past or last year, but because we talked about body scanning, but now what I also had a question about the breath. You do it through the nose, the touch or the sound through the nose, and what before I came here, I did it through the stomach or through the chest, and I wanted to know why you don't recommend that, or what is. I think you told me once, but I forgot, because in the past it seemed for me that my focus is deeper when I'm focused on the chest, getting up and down, or the stomach.
Yeah, so the breath, the sound of the breath or the sensation of air over the skin, this is something that's consistent during the meditation that you're able to do. The abdomen going in and out, that's actually not breathing. The breath is coming into a person's lungs. When people talk about abdominal breathing, there's no such thing as abdominal breathing because air doesn't go into your stomach through breath. It goes into your lungs, right? People are just using their muscles to expand their stomach. So the mind becomes busy at expanding the stomach and contracting the stomach. The mind becomes busy focusing on this up and down part of the air in the body, where if you just focus it on the sound of the breath or the sensation of air, this is what you need to be able to focus on. That's the present moment. Like, that's right now. When you hear that breath, that's right now. So you're focusing the mind on the present moment. What people are experiencing when they think they're more focused and concentrated, when they're doing things like what you mentioned about focused on the stomach or the air, some people count, some people say puto, some people do this body scanning. They are having a lack of wisdom in their mind, thinking that they're more concentrated, but they're actually not more concentrated. What's actually happening is whatever thought you would have had, you're replacing it with another thought. And now the mind thinks, oh, I'm more concentrated because I'm not having so many random thoughts. Well, you're not having so many random thoughts because you're giving your mind something to think about. And now the mind thinks that, oh, I'm more focused, I'm more concentrated, but you're really not, because the mind hasn't been trained that when you do have a thought, you notice your thought and you're able to let it go. So it's actually part of the mind's ignorance or unknowing of true reality. It's part of the delusion that the mind has, that it thinks it's more concentrated because it's counting, or here in Thailand they do puto, or some people, they move their abdomen in and out and they focus on that and they're like, wow, I'm more focused now. No, you're not. You're actually just giving your mind something to think about, and all these random thoughts that you would have had, yeah, you didn't have those random thoughts, but that's because you gave it something else to think about. And it's unwise to do this because the mind hasn't actually been trained to let go. That's what you're doing, is you're trying to train your mind to be able to notice your thoughts sooner and sooner and then let them go easier and easier. And this is where you get the discipline or the control over your mind. By just giving your mind something else to think about, you haven't gained any control over the mind.
It's the same with the chest area or the lungs.
Mm-hmm.
Focus on the lungs.
Yep.
Okay, I think I cannot see the difference still
Mm-hmm.
between focusing on the nostrils
There's many things that you're going to learn on the path to enlightenment that you're not going to be able to see right away, right? Because right now we're just talking intellectually, right? So you're learning it. Then you need to reflect on it to be able to verify it. Then you need to practice it and see the truth for yourself. One of the things that we've talked about is because you came from these other teachers where they taught you all these other different meditation techniques. And I've explained to you that whenever somebody has all these different meditation techniques, their mind isn't being trained to let go. Their mind's actually being trained to hold on. And what I share with you is what I notice is when people come from this type of background, their mind tends to cling and have a lot of holding on. And you can see that with your mind, that your mind tends to cling and hold on to a lot of things. That's because you've been training your mind prior to learning with me to hold on. That's what you've been training the mind to do. And that's why it holds on so much, more so than even the average student. So you need to be able to understand that whenever I teach you something, you're not going to be able to see that truth right away. It's very rare that somebody learns something and sees the truth in it right away. So you spend the time doing the intellectual learning, you reflect on it to independently verify it, then you practice it and you see the truth for yourself that it's actually working. Because prior to you learning here, what you were doing actually wasn't working. That's why your mind has so much clinging in it. Your mind thinks that you're more concentrated, but you're actually not, because now in situations where your mind is clinging, you can see that it doesn't want to let go. And this is the evidence for you that what you were doing previously wasn't working, because otherwise your mind would be able to easily let go. The more that you train in the way that the Buddha taught, you'll be able to see that your mind improves because it's able to let go. Okay, no more questions? Okay, so I'm going to share with you guys two topics this morning, and we'll probably be able to talk about these and probably even finish up by 10:30 or so, depending on what questions you guys have, because this is a really short topic, and then there's another even shorter topic after this, just to kind of finish up the course. And then what I usually do is propose that if you guys would like to go out to a group lunch, we can go out and have a group lunch if you'd like. It's up to you guys if you'd like to do something like that. But this topic of practicing the path to enlightenment in the workplace is very important, because there's all these different techniques that I share with you guys, all these different teachings, like having singleness of mind, using right speech and things like this, even right livelihood itself. And someone might say, well, wow, how can I practice that in the workplace if I'm practicing singleness of mind, but my coworkers are bombarding me with all these tasks, or people are trying to pull me in one direction or another, or if I'm in a business meeting, how do I really practice these teachings on a day-to-day basis? So that's what I'm going to be able to help you see here, is how to integrate these teachings into the workplace. Other people don't need to know that you're actually practicing these teachings, but if you're practicing the teachings, that's what's going to help you, because you wouldn't be able to get to enlightenment if you were only practicing the teachings in your personal life. You would never get to enlightenment that way. The teachings are actually all encompassing. You're going to need to be able to practice them at all times during your day, from when you're first waking up all day long, and as you're going to sleep as well. So I'm going to help you guys to understand how to practice these teachings in your day-to-day life as you're in a professional environment. Okay, so first, just like all the talks that I've been sharing with you guys, is the very first thing you need to do is acquire wisdom. You need to acquire wisdom of the path to enlightenment. Without that, you're not going to be able to practice it in the workplace. So I never know who's going to be in one talk versus another. You see people coming and going all the time here, and you see people coming and going online all the time. So that's why I need to start each individual talk with this one, because if you're not acquiring wisdom about the path to enlightenment, there's no way you could actually practice it in the workplace or anywhere else. So you're going to need to learn investigate, examine the teachings, reflect on them to independently verify them, and then practice them. And that's going to help you to be able to acquire the wisdom that you need to integrate them into your day-to-day life. So everything you're doing on the path to enlightenment is always about cultivating wisdom about the path. Then you're going to need a regular practice of breathing mindfulness meditation, loving kindness meditation, and a well-developed practice of generosity. Sometimes when we're in the work environment and we're having a professional life, when things get really busy for us, we tend to kind of leave off the things that are actually really important for us. You know, someone might start skipping breakfast, or they stop exercising the physical body, or they stop meditating or things like this because they have all these tasks at work and they want to like plow through all these tasks. And they think if they just get this mountain of work done, everything will be better. But if you're not consistently meditating throughout your weeks and months and years, you're not going to be able to get all those projects done. There's always going to be work for you. There's never going to be a time where all your work is done until you get to enlightenment and you die. That's when all your work is done, right? So sometimes when we're at work, we just want to plow through that next task, that next project. We think that, if we just get that next thing done, everything will be perfect. But what you would like to be able to do is be consistently working on your projects throughout your weeks and months, but you need to also be consistently meditating. At the times when you're the busiest and you have the most tasks, that's the most important times to be meditating. But sometimes people drop that stuff off when they get really busy at work. So instead, what I encourage you to do is really make sure you carve out this time in the morning and in the evening, and if you can, in the middle of the day, and make sure that that doesn't get touched, that you meditate. I used to do things when I was in the professional environment, when I was actually an employee at a company. I used to build time into my schedule because I was a manager. We used to have schedules that everybody could see our schedule. I used to put in schedules. It was called, I used to call it I forget what I used to label it, but sometimes I would go off site and I would go meditate. Sometimes at this one company I worked at, they had lactation rooms for women to breastfeed or pump milk, and I would go in there and I would actually meditate, or I would just go into the bathroom and meditate. Sometimes I would sit on the toilet with my clothes on and I would just sit there and meditate. I would put a little block in my calendar so that people knew that David had a meeting, right? So you would like to carve off time for yourself in the morning, in the evening. Make sure you're getting your meditations in. And if you're meditating with loving kindness meditation in the morning, this is ideal because you'll go to work with loving kindness. You're going to need to practice loving kindness in your day-to-day life with your coworkers, with your boss, with your business partners, with your customers. You're going to need to make sure you knock down any anger, frustration, agitation, or annoyance in those relationships. So the way that you do that is do it within your own mind. So if you're doing the loving kindness meditation in the morning, you'll have a gas tank full of loving kindness. Then you can go out into your workday with the loving kindness and practice this through your intentions, speech, and actions. So the breathing mindfulness meditation and loving kindness meditation are the two that you really like to focus on as you're building up your practice. But then also practicing generosity in the workplace is really helpful because generosity in general is going to help train your mind to be able to let go. That's why you're practicing generosity, to train your mind to let go. And you also would be wise to practice that in the workplace. So if you're going to work and, maybe you'd like to take some bagels or some fruit or some donuts or things like this, or maybe you like to have a party at your house and invite some friends over, invite your office, your coworkers over to your house for a barbecue or something like this. Who knows what you might be doing? These are all ways that you can practice generosity. Just remember that it's important that you treat everyone equally. So if you're going to invite some people from work to a party, invite everybody, right? If you're going to bring bagels to the office, make sure you have enough for everyone. And if you work in a really large office, there may be 300, 500 people. You can't purchase 300 bagels. Then what you do is you purchase however many you can, which is maybe 20 or 12 or 10 or whatever. And you put them in a conference room and you send out an email to everybody and you say, hey, everyone, I brought in 20 bagels. They're in the conference room. Feel free to help yourself. Just would like to share with you guys. So now that if I'm the 21st person and I show up and there's no bagels there, then I realize that it's my decision that led to that. Because if you bring, let's just say 5 bagels and you give it to your 5 best friends at work, all the other people are going to get jealous. They're going to be like, why didn't you bring one for me? And now those painful feelings that they're experiencing, they're going to attribute that to you, and they're going to think you're the one who's causing them those painful feelings, when in reality it's coming from their own mind. And they're going to want to push you aside. They're going to be bitter, harsh, and hostile to you, or they're going to try to put their expectations on you and try to control you. So you would like to always be practicing generosity equally with all the people around you in a work environment, for example. So you're going to need to practice these same teachings that you do in your personal life. You're going to need to practice those in your professional life as well. And the Buddha teaches various teachings on the path to enlightenment, and these teachings actually apply in the work environment too. One of the things that he teaches is to not be complacent on the path to enlightenment, because one of the things that the mind can easily do is be like, oh, I'm not going to go to the temple today. Oh, I'm not going to read the book today. Oh, I'm not going to meditate today. And next thing you know, it's 1 week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks, you haven't been doing any of these things, and your mind regresses backwards. Complacency is where you're dull and lethargic, you're lackluster, maybe we might even say lazy. And someone can be lazy as it relates to their growth and development on the path to enlightenment. Well, if you understand how detrimental that is to your growth and development on the path to enlightenment, it's also detrimental to your growth and development at work too. If you're complacent at work, you're not going to be able to move your work projects forward. So let's just say the boss gives you a project, and this project is something that you can knock out in about 4 hours. And they give you this project on Monday, and they say, hey, this isn't due until Friday. Well, no need to wait until Thursday or Friday morning to start working on this just because you think it's going to take you 4 hours, because you really don't know 100% how long it's going to take you. Just jump right on top of that. On Monday morning, if they give you the project and you have the ability to do it, start working on it right away. And if you finish it up by Monday afternoon or Tuesday morning, hey, hand it in early. This is great for you. Your boss can see like, wow, they're diligent, they're dedicated, they're committed, they're able to accomplish this task prior to when I thought that it was going to need to be accomplished. And now maybe you can actually do some other work, right? And now your boss can see, wow, this person's really performing well, and you'll see that you can progress at work. So it's important not to be complacent with your work projects. Also, it's important not to be complacent with your skills and development. In terms of your professional development, you're going to need to be regularly developing new skills in the work environment. Whatever skills you enter into your professional career with, you're going to need to continue to grow and develop throughout your professional career. Otherwise, your skills are going to become old and outdated, and there's going to be new people who come in and outperform you, and then you're going to find it very challenging to continue to progress at work. So you're going to need to not only pay attention to your work projects and not be complacent, but also grow your skills and development, your professional development, going away to classes perhaps, or taking online programs, whether the company supports it and whether they pay for it, or maybe you do it yourself on the side where you're paying attention to your own growth and development with your career skills and abilities. So doing those kinds of things is really important. There's the practice of right livelihood. The Buddha teaches to practice right livelihood, because if you're causing harm in your livelihood, this is going to come back to you. The Buddha has very specific teachings on right livelihood. He talks about 5 trades that if you did any of these 5, that it's going to cause harm to others. So therefore, harm's going to come to you. He talks about business and weapons, living beings, meat, substances that cause heedlessness, and poisons. We talked about this on Monday as it relates to the Eightfold Path. And I showed you how to independently verify this so that you can see the Buddha's not giving you any rules or commandments. He's showing you the natural law that if you practice any of these things, you're sustaining your life off of causing harm to others, and now harm is going to come back to you. So you would like to get to the point where you're not doing any of these livelihoods. And then the way you perform your livelihood is very important as well, because he's helping you to get to a point where you have enthusiasm, ambition, and you can be overwhelmingly successful in your livelihood. He talks about scheming, flattering, hinting, belittling, pursuing gain with gain. And if you're doing any of these kinds of things, which we talked about on Monday, it's going to affect you in your day-to-day work environment. And if you're not doing these things, that's going to affect you too. You're going to see that you're going to have all this positive growth. So each one of these things we talked about on Monday. If you guys have any questions, when we get to the question period, we can talk about any of these that you'd like to talk about, because the Buddha is helping you to be able to get to this point where you have enthusiasm, ambition, and motivation in the work that you do. You shouldn't have to drag yourself to work each day. If you're currently doing that, that means you haven't made wise decisions about your livelihood. You would like to get to a point where you feel great about the work that you're doing, whether it's some product or service that you're offering or otherwise. You would like to thoroughly enjoy the work that you're doing. Sometimes people make decisions to go into a certain livelihood just for things like money, or maybe their ego. They're looking for a big title or something like this, but they don't really truly enjoy the work that they do. And when you go patronize certain businesses, you can tell whether somebody truly enjoys the work that they do or not in the way that they interact with you. And you're not interested in being the type of person that's dragging themselves to work today, unmotivated, and really just not even looking forward to getting to work. You would like to be thoroughly enjoying the work that you do, to the point where it doesn't even feel like work. This money that you're collecting in order to do this job, that's almost secondary. By the time you get to a right livelihood, it's like, yeah, I get this money and I need this money in order to be able to sustain my life, but I thoroughly enjoy this thing that I'm doing. That's what you would ultimately like to get to. So this is called the first fold of purification. And I taught this to you on Monday as part of the Eightfold Path. But there's a second fold of purification that the Buddha teaches you as part of his teachings. And this is in volume 12, chapter 14 of our book series. So if you're in between jobs, or you're unemployed and you need to get a job, or if you're in a job that you don't particularly care for, you might look at volume 12, chapter 14, because this is going to give you the full teachings of the Buddha of how to get to a livelihood that you thoroughly enjoy. And this is just the first part of it, helping you to understand the natural law of ways that you could potentially cause harm in a livelihood, and ways to perform a livelihood that ensures that you're doing a wonderful job and you can have nothing but success. So you're going to need to practice this as part of your livelihood. Then remember, as part of the Eightfold Path, that you learned about singleness of mind, and that the mind can only do one thing at a time. This is really important to practice at work, because sometimes what people are taught is to multitask, and your mind actually can't multitask. It's not possible to do multiple things at one time. What's actually happening is somebody's talking on the phone, they're writing an email, and they're doing something else over here. Their mind's actually rapidly cycling from thing to thing to thing to thing to thing. And if you do that for 8 or 10 or 12 hours, you'll go home and you'll find that you're really stressed and you have a lot of anxiety and you can't calm down. It's hard to calm down. It's like a racehorse that's running around a racetrack, and when they go to the barn, they can't calm down. If you've ever gone to the barn after a horse has raced on a racetrack, it's hyped up. It's the same thing that your mind's going to experience if you're at work running around all day long. When you get home, you're going to find it very challenging to be restful and relaxed. So you'd like to only do one thing at a time. And the way that this is going to look is that if you're practicing this singleness of mind and having focus at work, like let's just say I'm on the phone and somebody barges into my office and is like, David, I need your help. And I'm sitting here on the phone. I'm just going to keep talking on the phone, right? Because otherwise, if I put the phone down and I start talking with this person, I've just taught this person, anytime you barge into my office, no matter what I'm doing, I'm going to stop doing it and I'm going to address you, right? Even if it was my boss and they came barging into my office, I'm not going to stop talking on the phone. I'm handling that situation. I'm going to handle that first. And then when I'm done, I'll address the person that walked into the office. And if they choose to leave because I'm still on the phone, then that's their choice. They can come back another time, right? But the last thing you're interested in doing is making a regular habit of when someone barges into your office, you're going to immediately stop doing what you're doing and addressing them. This is not wise, because you're going to just teach the people around you, hey, just barge into my office whenever you like, and I'm just going to stop doing what I'm doing and I'm going to address you. So if you're writing out an email and someone barges into your office needing your help, hey, you can just give them a little finger like this, finish up your thought, and now when you're done, now you address whoever walked into your office. And this is going to help you to practice singleness of mind. It's not wise to be talking with someone and trying to write your email at the same time. Your mind's just going to be bouncing back and forth here, and it's not good for your mind. And it's that overactive mind. And now when you get home, it's going to be very challenging to rest and relax. And you're going to find that you're not going to be able to bring forth your full wisdom to be able to practice right speech with your email and to practice right speech with the person that is there, that's in your office. So now you're going to be producing unwholesome gamma or unwholesome results because you're not using right intention and right speech. So practicing singleness of mind and just doing one thing at a time is really important. As people are barging into your office, like I mentioned, just handle one person at a time. That's what you would like to be able to do. And if you're in a meeting, like say you're in a business meeting and your mind is wandering and thinking about something else, bring your mind back to the business meeting. Say that you're talking about a certain topic in the business meeting, but your mind's thinking about a vacation to Thailand, right? Or you're in the business meeting and you're thinking about this other project that's back at your desk that you're still working on. That's not going to help you. You need to be able to focus on whatever it is that you're dealing with in that business meeting. So you need to be able to be observant of your mind, see when it wanders, and then cut that off and let it go and come back to whatever it is that you're focusing on in that business meeting. Because that's where you're going to get the benefits in that business meeting, is applying your effort to contribute to whatever it is you guys are talking about. It's important to understand that calmness of mind means that you will have mindfulness or awareness of mind. When you have awareness of mind, you will have concentration or focus. And when you have concentration and focus, you can bring forth your wisdom to make wise decisions. When you have the opposite of this, you're not going to be able to access your wisdom and make wise decisions. In order to get to enlightenment, you're going to need to bring your practice up to the point where you're making wise decisions and then doing that for an extended period of time in order to be able to get to enlightenment, where you have 100% wise decisions in every single situation. And you can't do that if your mind's all shaken up. So if the mind is uncalm, you're going to lack mindfulness. If you lack mindfulness, you will lack concentration. If you lack concentration, you won't be able to access your wisdom, and you're going to make unwise decisions in the professional environment. And now it's going to produce unwholesome results for you. So you would like to get to the point where you maintain your calmness and composure in all situations throughout your workday. Because by remaining calm, you'll have mindfulness, concentration. You'll be able to access your wisdom, make wise decisions in the work environment, and now it's going to produce wholesome results for you in your day-to-day work environment, in the work projects, and you'll be able to see you make continuous progress in your growth and development in your professional work. So that's the Eightfold Path that you would like to be practicing. This is what's going to maintain your calmness of mind, starting with right view, right intention, right speech, right action, right livelihood, right effort, right mindfulness, and right concentration. You can be practicing all of this at work. There's no part of this that you can't practice at work. You can be practicing this at all times of your day. Even in your drive to work and in your drive home, you can be practicing this as well. There's no part of your day that you can't practice this. This is meant to be all-encompassing from the moment you're waking up all day long until you're going to sleep. And you need to be able to understand the Eightfold Path in the way that the Buddha taught it, which is what I taught on Monday. But then there's certain lessons from this that you can kind of apply a little bit in a unique way within the work environment. What I mean by that is right view. You guys probably remember it's teaching you the Four Noble Truths. It teaches you the 4 statements that are helping you to understand the problem in the mind, the cause of the problem, the elimination of it, and the path forward, right? Ultimately, what you come to understand is that it's your own mind that's causing your feelings, that it's your craving, desire, attachment. It's not other people that are causing you to be angry or frustrated. What the Buddha is essentially teaching you is to take responsibility for your own mind. Whatever feelings you're experiencing, it's coming from your mind. It's not coming from anything external. And the Buddha helps you to be able to see this through right view. That wrong view would be to blame other people for the things that you're experiencing. So you can apply this to your work environment too, right? You need to maintain that right view in the way that the Buddha taught it. But there's also kind of an underlying lesson here that you can accept responsibility for your work and your projects at work, right? Like, don't kind of pass the buck to somebody else. If you've agreed to something, if you've chosen to be responsible for something, then stand up for that, right? And now you accepting responsibility for this work or this project, that as you are able to either accomplish that or not accomplish that, you need to be able to communicate that with the people around you. So while we practice right view in terms of the Four Noble Truths, and that's what's going to lead to enlightenment, there's this underlying lesson of accepting responsibility for your intentions, your feelings, your actions, all the things that you're doing on a day-to-day basis. And you can apply that in your day-to-day work, that you would like to be responsible for the work that you're doing. Then with right intention, right speech, right action, and right livelihood, it's essential that you practice these at all parts of your day. And if you don't yet understand what these things are in the way that the Buddha taught them, that's what you need to be able to learn. You need to be able to commit that to your memory and be able to practice that in your day-to-day life, because this is the moral conduct that's going to guide you in developing wholesome relationships through your day-to-day activities at work. If you were practicing wrong intention, wrong speech, wrong action, and wrong livelihood, you're not going to have healthy relationships at work. And you would like to leave no place in your day-to-day life for a negative relationship. If you have a bitter and harsh and hostile relationship in your work environment, this is not going to produce any beneficial results for you. You would like to get to the point where you can be loving and kind and polite and respectful with every single person in your day-to-day life. Not only at work, but even your neighbors at home. You'd like to have all your relationships be harmonious. And it's these teachings that are going to guide you to be able to do that. So you'd like to be practicing these in your day-to-day work environment so it can produce more and more harmonious relationships. Because a harmonious relationship in the professional field is only going to produce beneficial results for you. Disharmony in your professional environment is going to produce unwholesome results for you. So you're not interested in any negative relationships in your day-to-day work environment. Then there's right effort, right mindfulness, and right concentration, where you're developing your mental discipline as you function in your livelihood, right? You're going to need to be able to understand what these 3 factors are so you can apply them in your day-to-day work environment, because they're going to have certain things that are happening and you're going to need that mental discipline in your day-to-day work environment. So ensuring that you understand what each of these are in the way that the Buddha taught them and then how to apply them is so important. You're going to need to apply it not only in your personal life, but in your professional life as well. So any questions on any of this stuff? Yep.
When I do meditation, I normally do it in the morning and in the midday. In the evening, I'm mostly too complacent or too tired. Would you say it's better to do it in the morning or in the evening? That's how I understood it. Or is it the same if I do it in the morning or in the midday?
Repeat that last little part again.
If I do it in the morning or the midday, is there a difference between that compared to in the morning or in the evening?
I see. It's having that morning meditation is so important, because without it, that means you're going to work and you're going to be spending 4 hours or so in the morning without having developed your mind and trained your mind at all. So you're not getting your meditation done until the middle of the day. If that's what you have to do and that's where you're at, and occasionally that's going to happen because of impermanence, then do it, right? But as best as you can, as often as possible, if you can meditate in the morning, that's going to produce the best benefits for you versus the middle of the day. You would like to have your day starting with some amount of meditation. This is going to produce the best results. And you'll probably be able to do that 90, 95, 98% of the time. But if occasionally it doesn't happen until midday, then okay, that's better than nothing. But you would really like to make a concerted effort of doing it in the morning because that's going to produce the most benefits.
And if I do it in the morning and in the midday, or versus I do it in the morning and in the evening, is there a difference?
Not as much of a difference, but morning and evening is really nice because it's going to help you to ease into your evening hours and ultimately get a really nice sleep at night so you can wake up feeling refreshed. So if there was an option to do only 2 meditations per day, morning and evening is best. Where if you needed to do morning and midday and that's all you were able to do, then okay, that's what you're able to do. But morning and evening is best because it's going to set you up with a nice schedule of being able to wake up in the morning refreshed with some training and meditation going out in your day. And now you're going to end your day with some meditation, cleaning up your mind and having a really good night's sleep. So middle of the day is helpful. You'll see that if you get 3 meditations in per day, it's going to produce the most benefits. But if you only were able to do 2 per day, which 2 per day will still get you to enlightenment, morning and evening is best. You would never get to enlightenment with just 1 meditation a day. But if that's where someone's starting, then that's where they start. But they wouldn't be able to get to enlightenment that way. They're going to need to get to a 2 session per day in order to be able to experience enlightenment.
Okay. Yeah, thank you. Another question, or better to say, what I would like to share is that I still have difficulties with the complacency topic, especially when I'm looking for a livelihood, or like trying a program out. I mean, I wanted to do this since I'm here, but I haven't done it yet. So there's a lot of complacency in this kind of thing. Like when I imagine that when I was back in Germany doing like the practical parts of my livelihood, and there was something looking over my shoulder, it was no problem for me to do it. So I did put a lot of effort in and did a lot of work. But I think if I do it, if I have no responsibility for someone else, maybe if I do it by my own, and also if it's things not with the hands, but like walking on the computer or stuff like that, yeah, there's a lot of complacency and not sure how I get out of that.
Yeah, the solution for complacency is arising what's called the enlightenment factor of energy. There's the enlightenment factor of energy. This is where you have vitality and vigor, motivation, ambition, enthusiasm. And the only way to arise that is through right effort. There's no magic button. You can't press a button. You can't take a pill. That's not what's going to get you out of complacency. It's through you applying effort within your own mind to arise this enlightenment factor of energy. You need to pull up the boots. You need to put on the pants. You need to go out there in the world and make things happen. That's the way that you're going to be able to get out of your complacency. There's typically some central desires that the mind's holding on to, and that's why it's in the complacency. It's holding on to this social media or YouTube or video games or whatever it is. So if you're working on letting those things go, that's going to help you. But ultimately, at the end of the day, it comes down to applying right effort to arise the enlightenment factor of energy, because there's 7 factors of enlightenment that are essentially tools to fine-tune the mind. And the enlightenment factor of energy is the one that's going to directly combat the complacency. And the way that you arise this energy is through investigation and examination of the teachings. That's what's going to lead to the arising of this energy. All right. Let me see if I have any questions online. I apologize for those of you guys that are online. I didn't have the visual aids on there for a little while. I just saw that and put in the visual aids. Okay, so we have a question from Linda. Hello. Unfortunately, I missed this course. Is there another one planned soon? I teach this course every 3 months. But since you missed it, if you would like to go to our YouTube channel, we have a playlist where I've taught this many times, and you can watch each one of the recordings. So our YouTube channel is Daily Wisdom, Walking the Path with the Buddha. So you'll be able to see all the classes within this course that I taught, and you'll be able to gradually learn as if you were taking the course. So you could just watch, maybe 1 video, 2 videos a day, and over the 5, 6, 8, 10 days, you'd be able to learn everything that I taught in this course. Okay. All right. You have a question? Yeah, Joycelyn.
Okay. This was back about pursuing gain with gain.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know what that is.
Okay, pursuing gain with gain here. What this is where you were only going to have a job for the sake of the money. You don't really care about the product or the service. The only thing that's really motivating you to do this particular job is the money itself, kind of like just collecting a paycheck. If that's what you were doing, eventually that craving would burn out and you would feel very unmotivated in your work. If you've ever taken that kind of job before, you probably dragged yourself to work. And initially, when you first got the job, wow, there was all this enthusiasm, like, wow, I'm getting all this money and this is going to be great. But then after 3 months, 6 months, or a year, that burns off. And now it's like, oh man, do I got to go to that place again? Right? And the mind's unmotivated to go to this particular place. So what the Buddha is teaching you to do is to not take a job just for the money. That's not what would be allowing you to get to a point where you have internal motivation and ambition and enthusiasm towards this work, because that's just a craving that's going to burn out. You need to feel like there's some benefit, some purpose that you're contributing to humanity, and there's something that you're doing that you're really enthused about, not the money part, but this product or service that you're offering is something that you really feel great about offering to the world. And that's what's going to keep you motivated towards going to this work each day and applying your effort and energy to continuing to grow and develop in that career. Mm-hmm. All right. I think Melissa has a question. Yeah.
So my question was, or is, you talked about how when you do rapid cycling, that your brain gets basically bored or lonely and you're not stimulated enough. I kind of feel like that's what happens to me. Like when I don't get enough stimulation, I kind of lose a lot of motivation, I guess, or even to want to go outside or do anything. So what would you recommend for that?
So everything that I'm teaching you is all about the mind, this non-physical, non-tangible. You can't really point to it and say where it's at. There's a connection to the brain, but the brain is the physical organ. So as long as you allow the mind to keep chasing and wanting and longing, yearning for stimulation, when you don't have it, yeah, the mind's going to feel lonely or bored or unmotivated. So you need to be able to see that what the mind's doing is it's chasing pleasant feelings. And if it gets what it wants, it gets happy and excited. But if it doesn't get what it wants, it gets the boredom and loneliness and all those other types of feelings like that. So what you need to be able to do is develop the Eightfold Path. And now when you see your mind longing, yearning, and chasing, you need to restrain it. And now this is going to help you to get to the point where you can do things and thoroughly enjoy what it is that you're doing, but you're not chasing pleasant feelings. So that's the way you're going to be able to do this, is train in the entire Eightfold Path. You need to train in this entire path, because the mind's going to just keep craving and craving and craving and chasing and chasing and chasing. So in a situation where you notice that your mind is doing that, you restrain it. Or in situations where you see that you're craving stimulation, you don't give the mind what it wants. So for example, say you're sitting down to eat and you're eating at a restaurant by yourself and your mind is craving stimulation and you want to turn to a YouTube video so that you can be eating and watching a YouTube video at the same time, which you're not actually doing that. You're switching back and forth. That's what the mind's doing. Don't allow your mind to do that. Put away the YouTube video and just eat. The mind thinks that the way to solve this boredom is to whip out YouTube, and that's going to solve the boredom. But it doesn't, because it allows the underlying craving that's in the mind to continue to persist. The only way that you're going to get rid of the boredom is through getting rid of the craving, desire, attachment. So if you just keep feeding the mind what it wants, which is the stimulation, like a YouTube video, then you never allow the mind to eliminate its underlying craving. So you get rid of that stuff and you just do one thing at a time. You just sit there and eat. 10, 15, 20 minutes, you just sit by yourself. And if there's going to be some boredom in the mind, but as you walk through this boredom and you get to the other side, that's where the peace and the joy comes in. But you're going to need to go through that boredom and break through it. It's like breaking through a wall. And now as you do this over multiple sessions, eventually you'll get to the point where you can sit there and just eat and be completely comfortable and enjoy eating, and you don't need this YouTube video. So wherever you see your mind having the boredom and loneliness, that's where you'd like to get rid of the stimulation. I'll give you another example. Say you're used to working out and you do running on a treadmill, or you do walking on a treadmill. And if you do walking by yourself on a treadmill, the mind's bored. And now someone might think, oh, let me listen to some music, or, oh, let me listen to a podcast. That actually doesn't solve your problem, because the underlying problem of the craving is still there. So you'd like to get to the point where you're completely comfortable exercising on the treadmill with no music, no nothing whatsoever. And that's going to train your mind to get rid of whatever that craving is, where it keeps thinking, I can only enjoy this activity on the treadmill if I have this music. That's the conditionality of those pleasant feelings. You'd like to get rid of that condition and train your mind like, no, I can just run on the treadmill and I can enjoy this thoroughly. And now, as you've done that over multiple months and you see your mind is just as much enjoying the treadmill with the music as without the music, at some point in the future, you might actually choose to bring the music back in, but you're going to need to go an extended period of time where you're not using the music in order to train your mind to get rid of that craving, in order to then be able to comfortably do this activity and enjoy it without the music.
What craving causes boredom? Just doing more?
It's not a specific craving. It's any craving, right? Because in your mind, the mind's going to have certain cravings for stimulation. You might be craving YouTube, craving music, craving to talk to friends, craving to see some type of scenery. There can be any number of different cravings. So when we just say, it's not like a particular craving causes boredom in every single person's mind. It's any craving that an individual has is going to produce some type of discontentedness. But each individual practitioner is going to experience different cravings and unique cravings. That's why this right mindfulness is so important. This is where you develop awareness of mind, because you're going to need to be able to look internally within your own mind. A teacher can kind of guide you and ask you questions and help you to be able to uncover some of your cravings, but you're not going to be with your teacher all the time. You're going to need to develop these skills on your own. So that's why you're doing the right concentration, which part of that includes the meditation, where each morning and evening you're doing breathing mindfulness meditation to be able to train your mind to develop this awareness so you can look inward and be introspective. This is what we were talking about this week when you came and talked to me about psychedelic substances. And I was explaining to you how those actually don't lead to improvement on the path to enlightenment, because it doesn't allow you to cultivate this mindfulness where you can be looking inward at the mind at all times during your day. And if someone relied on psychedelic substances, they're never going to be able to develop that mindfulness. So when someone's on that treadmill, for example, or they're sitting there eating food, you need to be able to look at the mind. What is it craving? Oh, while I'm eating, I'm craving this YouTube video. That's what it's craving. That's the mindfulness helping you to be able to see that. Now you apply right effort to eliminate the YouTube video and no longer watch YouTube while you're eating. Or if you're running on the treadmill and you're noticing that the boredom comes up and you look inward and you're like, what is my mind craving? I don't have my music today. That's what the mind's craving. Okay, so let me apply right effort and get rid of that music. And now let me train my mind to be able to run on this treadmill without any music. Right? So that's where the mindfulness comes in, that each practitioner, if they're developing that within their own mind, now in their day-to-day life, they'll be able to look inward to be able to see what are their cravings. Because even though a teacher can guide you and help you to be able to see some of these cravings, and we can only do that when we're together, again, you're going to be on your own throughout your days because your teacher isn't permanent. But also, even in us guiding you, we can't see 100% of every single craving that you have because it's all happening within your own mind. That's where each individual practitioner needs to develop this skill to be able to look inward and be able to uncover what are those individual cravings that they're experiencing. And that's what's going to then allow you to eliminate them. Yeah, you're welcome. Okay. Let me see if we have any other questions here online. I don't see any other questions. Okay. So now we'll move to this next topic. This is a very short topic. Oh, you have another question? Or are you just testing the mic? Okay. Yeah, no worries. It's great that they're actually working. So there's been a lot of staticky mics recently. All right. So there's this next topic that it's only going to take me like 5 or 10 minutes to teach it to you. But it's going to be really helpful for you if you understand it and you apply it, because there's going to be situations where you're practicing the Eightfold Path, you're practicing all these teachings of right intention, right speech, right action, everything else. And even with this, people can still get angry and frustrated sometimes around you. You're not causing them to be angry and frustrated. Their mind's causing it themselves, but they don't necessarily understand that. They're going to attribute these feelings that they're experiencing to you, particularly if they're not on the path to enlightenment. They're going to experience those painful feelings and they're going to think that you're the one causing it. So one of the things that the Buddha teaches you as part of this path is not only how to train your own mind and function in a way that you don't cause harm to others, but he's also teaching you how to get to a point where people are less and less likely to become discontent around you. Because while you understand that they're causing their own discontentedness, it's much more enjoyable to spend time with people when they're polite and kind and friendly and respectful, and they're not being bitter and harsh and hostile or grumpy or irritable. So you would like to practice in such a way that it's less likely to trigger somebody else's craving, desire, attachment, and they're not becoming angry and frustrated. And this is one of those topics that help you to be able to understand how to practice in such a way that it's less likely to trigger somebody's craving, desire, attachment. I call this the art of the friendly no. How to say no without saying no. Now, if somebody asked you, hey, can I borrow money? And you said no, you're not practicing wrong speech there. You haven't done anything that's wrong speech, because remember, right speech is refraining from lying, slander, harsh speech, and frivolous speech. You haven't harmed anybody through that. And if you look at the 5 factors of well-spoken speech, speaking at the proper time, what you say is true, gentle, beneficial, and with a mind of loving kindness, you haven't actually caused any harm here. But if you just say, no, you can't borrow my money, oftentimes because they're craving and they're longing, yearning to borrow your money, when you say no, they're not getting what they want. So therefore, they experience the painful feelings. And now when their painful feelings are arising, they're going to attribute it to you. And that's where they're going to push you away. They're going to be bitter, harsh, and hostile, or start trying to put their expectations on you and trying to control you. Or if somebody tries to invite you to their party and they say, hey, we're having this really great party this weekend. We'd like you to come to this party. And you said, no, I can't come. Again, if they have this craving, desire, attachment, this longing, yearning for you to come, and they get what they want, they're going to be happy. But if they don't get what they want, they're going to be experiencing painful feelings. Now, when you say, no, I'm not going to come to your party, again, you've practiced right speech there in terms of those things that I just mentioned to you, but their mind still has the potential to get angry and frustrated. You're not causing that anger and frustration, but they don't know that. They think that you're causing it because they're not practicing the Four Noble Truths, right? So this topic is going to help you to be able to learn how to respond in these situations in a way that is less likely for them to become discontent, okay? So the problem is that the unenlightened mind doesn't typically like hearing the word no. It doesn't like that because the mind's not getting what it wants. Right? And then also even the variations of this, like can't, don't, won't, the mind doesn't like this, right? So there's ways for you to practice where you're not using these words, but instead you find alternative ways to communicate, right? So let me give you some examples here. This is the best way to teach this topic. If somebody came to me and they said, hey, David, can I borrow some money? Right? And I know that I'm not able to let them borrow this money, or I'm not interested in letting them borrow the money, or for whatever reason, I'm choosing that I'm not going to go forward with this, right? I might say, you know what? I'm going to need to review my finances. And if I'm able to let you borrow this money, I will let you know, right? I haven't said no, right? I just said, hey, I'm going to look at my finances. And if I'm able to let you borrow this money, I will let you know. Right? I haven't said no. So now they might say, oh, come on, like I need an answer. I got to pay my rent. I got to go to my landlord today. I understand. That sounds really challenging. I'm going to need to look at my finances. And if I can let you borrow it, I will let you know. You might have to just reiterate what you said, because they're craving. They really want that money. Oh, I got to pay my child's tuition. If I don't pay their tuition, they're not going to be able to go to school, and it's due tomorrow at 8 a.m. Can you just let me borrow that money? Come on, come on, come on. The more that they're pushing you like that, the more that they're longing, yearning, the more important it is for you to not go forward with this, right? And you would like to just be able to reply in such a way that you're not using the word no. Right? You would like to come up with different derivatives that are basically in your tool belt, and you're able to use it at any point in time. Here's another one. Let's just say somebody invites you to a party and say, hey, David, we're going to have this big party and we would like you to come to this party. Oh, wow, that sounds really interesting. I appreciate you thinking about me and considering and offering me to be able to come. I'm going to need to look at my schedule. And if I can come, I will let you know, right? I never said no, right? I appreciate that you're thinking about me, appreciate that you've invited me. I'm going to need to consider this. And if I can go, I will let you know, right? And now if you're not going to go, you just never call them, right? Because what you said was, if I can go, I will let you know, right? So now I can't go, so therefore I don't let you know. Right? So now it goes on 3 days, 5 days, 10 days, the party's happening and you just don't go, right? This is the way that you can say no without saying no. Okay. I didn't understand this when I was going through life. And there were certain situations where I didn't practice what it is that I'm sharing with you right now. And it didn't turn out well. There was a point in time when I just got out of college and I had was living in a condo that my grandmother helped me to purchase. And my money was quite tight because I had just gotten out of school and I didn't have a whole lot of money. And some of my friends were still in college and they were they were the year below me. So I had already graduated. And I had this one friend who was a really good friend, really great guy, really nice guy. We've only ever had wonderful conversations. We never had a harsh word between the two of us, ever. And he came to me. He drove all the way to where I lived, which was probably like 3 hours away from college. And he came to see me on a Sunday. And Saturday night, he had went out with his friends, drinking, having a good time, buying drinks at the bar, all this kind of stuff. So he shows up to my house. He talks to me. We spend a little bit of time together. But then eventually he gets to a point. He says, hey, David, I would like to borrow some money. I need you to let me borrow some money so that I can pay my tuition. And I was like, oh, yeah, really? How much money do you need? He said, oh, I need this much money. I think it was like $300 or $400 or something. And I didn't have that money, right? And even if I did, if I don't pay my bills, I get kicked out on the street. If he didn't pay his bills, he was going to go home and spend time with his parents. That's what he was going to do because he had that ability. I didn't have that ability, right? So when he asked me to borrow money, I said, no, I can't let you borrow money. And he said, well, why not? And I said, well, I don't have that money. And then I said, well, what did you do last night? Didn't you say you went out drinking? He said, yeah. I said, how many drinks did you have? He was like, oh, I had like 12, 14 drinks. I was like, well, why didn't you use that money for your tuition? Right? And he didn't like that. Right? And next thing you know, I haven't heard from that guy since. Right? He was a really good friend, somebody that I was really close with, and that we hadn't had a harsh word between the two of us. But because his mind didn't get what he wanted, he attributed those painful feelings to me and he pushed me aside. right? No big deal. It's in the past, right? My mind's not holding on to this relationship, but you're not interested in broken relationship after broken relationship after broken relationship. You'd like to be able to sustain relationships. So rather than doing what I did in this situation, which was very unwise, if I had to do that again, I would have been like, you know what, Jeremy, I really appreciate that you think of me as such a good friend and that you're willing to ask me for money. And thank you for coming to visit me. If I'm able to let you borrow that money, I'll let you know. That's what I would have said now, right? But I didn't have that wisdom back then, right? So if you do these kinds of things, you can preserve your relationships where you don't run into difficulties and struggles. Now, this individual could still get upset because they wanted that money right now and I didn't give it to them, right? They could still do that, but this is a less likely opportunity for their mind to be able to do this. So you can get to the point where you have enough of these phrases that in situations where people are asking you these kinds of things, you can use this type of approach where you don't have to say no, right? Because the mind doesn't like to hear that word no when it has a craving, desire, attachment, because it can only be happy and get pleasant feelings when it gets what it wants. And now when it doesn't get what it wants, it hears that word no or can't or don't or won't. It's not getting what it wants. And now it's going to attribute those painful feelings to you. And that's where the mind's going to push you away. They're going to be bitter, harsh, and hostile to you, or they're going to start putting their expectations on you and try to force you and control you to do things their way. Okay, so this is a very short little teaching to be able to help you. Now, if you like, you can give me some examples and I will help you, because sometimes students don't see how to apply this in their day-to-day life. So if you guys would like to, kind of role play some of this stuff, we can do that and I can help you. Joe, you have a question? Or you'd like to give an example?
Yes, Mr. David. I think from this has gotten me in trouble a lot too, because I can be very harsh with people and saying I don't have a problem saying no. But also, I guess my question is this: is how to respond to people that are eliciting their opinion and unsolicited advice, or just unsolicited. How do I politely tell somebody that I don't care about what they're talking about?
You don't need to tell them that. You mean like someone's giving you unsolicited advice, right? The best thing to do is just walk away, right? Like say someone starts saying like, hey, Joe, you should really move to Vietnam. Like, why are you in Thailand? Like Thailand is blah, 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 blah. Vietnam's the best place to live. Hey, you know what? I'll catch up with you later. See ya. And you just like right in the middle of their sentence, right? So even though the Buddha teaches you to speak at the proper time, right? That you don't interrupt people, that you make sure your mind is prepared to talk and their mind's prepared to talk. These are situations where you could step away from a conversation and just move on. You don't have to sit there and listen to every single thing that they have to say, because this is actually helpful for their ego, because that's what they're functioning through, is they're functioning through their craving, and they're because they're craving and longing, yearning to tell you something. And now they're also having ego, which is their conceit and arrogance. They think that they know what's better for you than you know what's better for yourself, right? And this is their ego. So there's no harm in you cutting that off in the middle and walking away. And in this situation, if they become angry and frustrated and they don't want to be your friend anymore, this is the kind of relationship that you're fine with moving past, because that type of relationship is never going to be harmonious. As long as they're putting themselves above you and thinking that they're above you, and now they're going to talk down to you like that, you're never going to have a harmonious relationship with this person. So it's better to just cut it off midstream, walk away. And now if they get angry and they don't want to be your friend anymore, so be it. But now, if they're a good friend and they're someone who's been around for a while, when you do that, each time they start giving you unsolicited advice, if you step away and step away and step away, they're going to figure out like, whoa, every time I do this, he leaves and I'm interested in being friends with this guy, and I'm going to need to stop doing what I'm doing, because they're going to figure it out. Because what you're showing them is you're showing them the natural law of karma, that whenever somebody talks with ego and conceit, Whenever someone talks through craving, people don't want to be around you. Whereas if you just stay there and you just listen to it, they're not seeing the natural law of Gotama. They think functioning through their conceit is helpful, right? So they're not seeing the natural law of Gotama. So you'd like to show them the natural law of Gotama, because the natural law of Gotama is the most unbiased teacher you will ever find. So when you're stepping away from these conversations, you don't even want to say, I appreciate what you're saying, or I appreciate you sharing that with me. This is what some people unfortunately do, is when they get this unsolicited guidance and this conceit, they will say, I appreciate you sharing that with me. No, you don't want to say that, because that's just teaching them to continue to say these kinds of things. You'd like to literally just abruptly say, hey, I got to go somewhere. I'll catch up with you later. And you're gone, right? And if they're like, hey, I got more to tell you, just keep on walking. You just know that this they're craving, and it's confirmation for you that you're making a wise decision, because they're trying to pull you back into the conversation and they're not comfortable with you walking away. And even if you're at dinner, you can just get up and like go to the bathroom and wash your hands and stuff like that. Maybe you're not interested in ending the conversation 100%. Maybe you just be like, hey, I need to go to the bathroom. I'll be back. And then you just go to the bathroom, wash your hands, use the bathroom, look at your hair, whatever you're going to do. And then you come back and you just completely change the subject to something else, because that's a way to redirect their mind towards something else.
Okay, thank you. It happened last night, and I did exactly that. There was a conversation I was in the middle of, and I knew that it was getting combative at that point. So I knew the best situation for me to do was just to walk away. So I just kind of gently gave this person like a light hug, and I walked away. It just got awkward in my mind, because now I'm like, I thought, well, you know, this person's just going to drive off and go about their business, and then I felt guilty, like this guilt kind of came over me, and I sent this individual a text message, and I just said that, actually I waited, and they messaged me, and they're like, I don't like the way you just left me. Like you just walked away like that. And I kind of wanted to articulate to them why I did it. But then this part of me thought maybe they wouldn't understand language barrier. So I just said, I'm sorry I left that way. I just thought it was the best thing to do at the time. And I has dropped the subject.
Okay. So they were having those feelings because they're craving for you to be permanent, right? And they're not comfortable with this impermanence that Joe just left. So that's actually good for their mind, because their mind's holding on, craving you to be permanent. And your mind was experiencing the guilt because you were craving a certain outcome in that situation too, and your mind is holding on. If you do these things regularly, you won't experience that guilt anymore, because you'll get used to it, and you'll be able to see this is the most loving and kind thing you could ever do, is help somebody eliminate their craving. Because as long as you stay in that conversation and their mind continues to hold on, they're never going to get to peace and joy this way. So you need to be able to see helping others to eliminate their cravings, or creating an environment where they can eliminate their cravings, is one of the best things you could ever do. But you need to be able to do this in a very loving and kind and warm and gentle way, because you're going to see that people are going to get attached to you. The more enlightened you become, people are going to kind of grab onto you, because they really like that brightness and that cheerfulness, that gladness that you're experiencing in your day-to-day life. They really thrive. They really kind of feed off of that. People who are more standing in the light, sometimes the people in the darkness will try to pull you down into the darkness, or they will just try to grab onto you. This is their craving. So you need to be able to spot people's cravings and be able to practice in such a way that you're not causing any harm, and then give their mind an opportunity to let go. So in that situation where you gave a hug and you chose to leave, you didn't cause any harm in that situation. So whatever feelings they were experiencing, it was just because of their cravings. And then the same thing with you. And if you do these things regularly, then you'll feel more and more comfortable with it. But I would caution you in saying sorry in that situation when they say, hey, I don't like the way you left, because they had certain expectations of how you should have left, and you didn't meet their expectations, and now they're having a problem with that. And when you say sorry, you're basically acknowledging like, hey, these expectations you have of me, they're warranted. And I'm sorry that I did that to you, as if you did something wrong. So now you're basically accepting responsibility for their feelings. You're now promoting wrong view. So what I would have said in that situation, if they said, hey, I really didn't like the way you left, I would have said, oh, that's unfortunate. I leave whenever I need to leave, and I've got certain things I need to take care of. That's unfortunate that you feel that way. Done. I didn't accept responsibility for their feelings. And if they say, well, you shouldn't leave that way when we're together in the future. Oh, so do I need to meet your expectations? Is that what you're sharing with me? Like, I would say it in a polite way, right? Do I need to meet your expectations? I need to do things your way. And that's the only way that we can be friends, is if I do things your way. And they might get angry hearing that because their ego might get triggered. But if you guys are going to be friends, you need to kind of share these kinds of things from time to time and be able to help them to see this, because they're asking you, right? They're talking to you. You're not giving them unsolicited guidance in this situation. You're just having a discussion, and you can become really skillful like this. And at the end of the day, this relationship could potentially survive and this person could learn something. But if not, and the relationship needs to be over, then the relationship needs to be over. And you just be comfortable with that you're not clinging to this relationship, because it's never going to get to harmony if they have expectations of how you're supposed to leave. And if you don't leave that way, they're going to be angry, because if they don't have that expectation, they're going to have another expectation that, oh, when you come to see me, you should do it this way. And when we're spending time together, you should do it this way, right? They're going to start having all these expectations of you, and you'll never be able to meet them. So where these crop up in your relationships and your conversations, there's no harm in addressing it if you can do that skillfully with right speech, and particularly since they're asking you about it. You're welcome.
I kind of have a question off that. Wouldn't it just be easier to tell them you were uncomfortable with that? Because I feel like if somebody walked off on me and I didn't know, I'm going to be confused. And if they never communicate with me, how am I supposed to know what was uncomfortable or said or stuff like that?
Saying you're uncomfortable to somebody else doesn't change anything, because that uncomfortableness is coming from your own mind. So if you said to your friend, like, oh, I was uncomfortable with the way that you wanted me to leave, that's just saying, hey, I have a craving, desire, attachment myself. I have an expectation myself of how I should leave, and your expectation doesn't meet my expectations, so I would be uncomfortable doing things your way, kind of thing. So you're just voicing your craving, desire, attachment. It's better if you're feeling uncomfortable with any particular situation that you just eliminate your own craving, desire, attachment that's causing that uncomfortableness. You don't need to communicate your uncomfortableness to the other person, because typically what's going to happen there is now this person's going to figure out what is the trigger that's causing that uncomfortableness, so I don't do that thing anymore. Right? And this is the way that people tend to function, in their relationships become very unharmonious, because now you're trying to constantly figure out how each individual friend wants you to do things. And you're not just free to do things the way that you know is wise, because all these people are having demands on you and expectations of you, and everybody's walking on eggshells around each other, being afraid that you're going to trigger somebody's craving or become uncomfortable. Whereas if everybody just maintains right view and understands that you're causing your own discontent feelings, and you get rid of your cravings, desires, attachments, and people aren't holding on, then everybody can be peaceful and joyful. So if this example with Joe, if his friend gets to the point where they're not attached to Joe and they're completely comfortable with however Joe chooses to leave or come into conversations, now this person can be completely comfortable no matter what. But if Joe explains when he's comfortable and when he's uncomfortable, this person explains when they're comfortable and uncomfortable, and now we're going to walk on eggshells around each other and try to make sure we do it that way, you're not free to just function the way you function. And now your mind, you can't have more than about 5 friends in this situation, because you have to remember Barbara's triggers. You have to remember Bob's triggers, Susie's triggers. And now you have to remember how to function with all these different people. And your mind is so uncalm and convoluted because you're constantly trying to figure out, who am I with today and how do I need to function so that their mind doesn't get triggered. Instead, just everybody getting to the point where they understand these natural laws and you function without craving, desire, attachment. Now, no matter what you do, completely comfortable.
I guess that kind of makes sense.
What's that again?
I said it kind of makes sense,
Yeah.
but it kind of doesn't to me, because to me, I'm like, I rather just, I guess, communicate and be aware versus left wondering and questioning and trying to guess. But then I can see how you're saying, then I would need to walk on eggshells. But I guess for me, I see it more as, no, I would adjust my behavior, because if it doesn't work in this situation, there's a good chance it's not going to work in other situations.
Yeah, your goal in life isn't to go around and figure out what everybody's cravings, desires, attachments are, what their rules are, what their expectations are, and function like that with this person, function in a different way with this person, a different way in this person, and this person, because that's going to drive you crazy. You're going to be constantly trying to figure out one thing versus another. I'll give you an example that you can understand as it relates to here in the classroom, right? If I had a certain expectation that everybody in the classroom has to sit a certain way, that you have to sit with one cushion and you have to sit cross-legged and you have to sit up straight and you have to sit with your arms on your knees, right? And if I had that craving for permanence, that every single student has to sit that way, and maybe we have to sit in neat little rows, right? And there has to be these neat little rows. Stay where you are, Joycelyn. I don't have that expectation. If I had that expectation, you guys would be very uncomfortable when you came here, because it's like, I can't just do what I would like to do, which is have my back up against the wall, have my feet out straight, have 3 cushions, have a cushion on my back. Each one of you are sitting completely different, right? Because of impermanence, everybody's sitting different. But if I had an expectation that every student should sit a certain way, you guys wouldn't be comfortable here. You wouldn't like it, right? So like yesterday, your back was hurting, you mentioned, right? And you were kind of moving off your cushion and you're doing a little bit of stretching while I was talking and while I was teaching. You know, you were trying to get your back comfortable. That didn't bother me because I didn't have a craving for you to sit a certain way, right? Whereas if your goal was to figure out, what does David want and how does he want me to sit? And now you can only sit in that way. You wouldn't be able to have the freedom to stretch your back and do all these other things that you needed to do in that situation. So by functioning without craving, desire, attachment, everybody can just do whatever feels comfortable for them. Whereas if everybody has to conform to some rules or expectations, now you don't feel comfortable in that situation. So what's happening is, in your relationships, your friends are putting expectations on you about how you want them to, how they want you to be. And you might be putting expectations on them of how you want them to be. And now nobody can be comfortable in these relationships because everybody's trying to meet each other's expectations instead of just clearing all that stuff out and just loving people as they are and being comfortable with everybody just functioning in the way that they know to be wise. Does that help you?
And then I guess my last question is, for expectations, sometimes, like for me, I have expectations of how I would like somebody to treat me, you know, not curse at me, not yell at me, stuff like that. What I would like to be around, or qualities I want in a friend, somebody who's honest, integrity.
Mm-hmm.
But you're saying not to have expectations. So it's like, do I just let anybody in my life, or how? I guess I don't see the balance.
Yeah. Okay, let me help you with that. So having an expectation of something means that you're longing, yearning for it. And you can only be happy if you get what you want. And then when you don't get what you want, you're angry or frustrated or what have you. right? That's the mind craving permanence. You would like to get to the point where you understand what is needed for a healthy relationship, but you're not craving and longing, yearning, and expecting it. Do you understand? Right? So obviously you understand that being polite, kind, friendly, and respectful in a relationship is important. It's a foundation for the relationship. But if you were to expect it and crave it and long and yearn for it, when this person chooses to be bitter and harsh and hostile with you, you'll be upset, right? And instead, what you understand is you understand impermanence. Some people you spend time with, they're going to be polite, kind, friendly, and respectful. And now you can build wonderful relationships with these people. These people over here who's choosing to be bitter and harsh and hostile, particularly if it's right at the beginning of the relationship, you're just going to choose not to spend time with them. But your mind's not going to be upset. You're not going to be angry. You're not going to be frustrated. You just understand, oh, that's unfortunate. They're being bitter and harsh and hostile, and I'm not interested in spending time with people who are doing that. I'm going to maintain my contentedness and my peacefulness, but I'm just going to choose not to spend time with this person. So it's a matter of you can't control that person. You can't force them to do things a certain way. And it's not your role to teach them. You can't give them unsolicited guidance. They need to decide for themselves to learn and grow and develop and become a better person. But what happens is they start learning through the natural law of Gotama that when they're bitter and harsh and hostile, people don't want to be around them. And now they have less and less and less and less friends. And eventually they're like, man, I need to fix this. Like, what's going on here? So you spend time with the people who are polite, kind, friendly, and respectful. But when people are bitter, harsh, and hostile, you just understand that, hey, that's impermanence. That's their choice. It's not a reflection of me and who I am. That bitterness and harshness is coming from their own mind, and I didn't cause that. So you can maintain your peace and joy. But you're not going to be able to do that if you have an expectation that people treat you in a certain way, because that's the mind craving permanence. Does that make sense? Yeah, this is where you need to practice. You need to be able to see this. Because right now, if someone was disrespectful to you, you'd probably have painful feelings, right? Yeah. So that's the craving that your mind has. You're craving people to talk to you in a certain way. And you're never going to get to that point. Even when you're enlightened, there's going to be occasional situations where people speak to you in disrespectful ways. But by the time you get to that point, your mind's not affected by it. Mm-hmm. So it's a matter of making decisions to spend time with the people who you know you can have a wonderful relationship with, but understanding this impermanence and not being affected by somebody else's speech. I don't know if you've heard this. My grandmother taught this. It's not a teaching of the Buddha. She used to say, sticks and stones may break my bones, but words will never hurt me. You know that one? You never learned that one? You learned that one? Okay. So this is the Buddha's teachings. Right? It's just through grandma's, understanding of them, right? So you're never interested in allowing someone else's words to hurt your mind. But if you have an expectation that they treat you a certain way, it will hurt your mind. If you get rid of that expectation, their words can't hurt you. It's not possible because you understand just impermanence. They're going to speak that way. That's their choice. I'm not going to form feelings based on that. Mm-hmm. You have a question, Joycelyn?
This is a similar situation. I have a sister, an older sister who is omniscient. She knows everything. Mm-hmm. I know nothing. Mm-hmm. Okay.
She truly omniscient, or is that her ego thinking that she knows everything? Okay.
I'm being facetious.
Your sister, you said?
Yeah, my older sister.
Okay.
So we've had conversations where, not lately because I've been avoiding her and I'm feeling badly about it. But for example, we're having a discussion or conversation between us and she will barely let me speak. And then I would say, well, wait, let me say something. She goes, no, you don't need to say anything because I know what you're going to say and you're wrong. And I was like, omniscient. So, and then I have a younger sister that we are much closer because we can have a dialogue. Mm-hmm. And so right now my older sister's in critical condition and in her health. And I don't want the relationship to remain as it is.
Mm-hmm.
She's pretty close to transitioning.
Mm-hmm.
And so I have some guilt and shame feelings about avoiding
About what?
avoiding
Oh, okay.
her.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So you answered some of that already.
Yeah.
But I don't know how to apply it to the situation.
So you're not interested in being around this ego, but at the same time, since she's close to death, you feel like you need to be around her because pretty soon you're not going to have that opportunity.
Yeah, she spoke to my younger sister recently and asked about me.
Mm-hmm.
And so that increased my
Yeah.
what do I do?
Yeah. So, if your sister's getting close to passing, the best thing, the most loving thing that can happen is for someone to extinguish their cravings, right? And if she has an attachment to you and a craving to see you, one of the ways to extinguish that is for her to fulfill it. So sometimes the best thing to do is actually to spend time with that person and go see them and allow their mind to experience the contact so that then they have the potential to let it go, because that's going to help them in their next birth, because she's probably not enlightened, but she could potentially get to enlightenment at death, but probably not. She's probably going to be reborn. So whatever amount of craving and attachment you can help her to extinguish in this life, it's going to help her in her next life, right? So I had this situation with my stepfather when he was getting close to death. He had leukemia, and I went to go see him at the hospital, and I spent almost an entire day with him, talking, going to eat, doing different things and stuff like that. And then I told him when I was there, I said, hey, look, this is probably the last time I'm going to see you, because, I have my own business and I'm not going to be able to come see you again. This is probably our last time seeing each other. And he understood, and he said, okay. And then I left. And then like about a week later, he called me and he said, hey, when are you going to come see me again? And I said, oh, remember we talked? And I said, this was my last time to come see you. I'm not going to be able to come see you. He said, yeah, they told me I'm only going to be able to live for another few days. And I thought you were going to maybe come see me again. And I was like, well, if you really, want me to come see you, I will. But if at all possible, I really need to take care of these things, and I'm not going to be able to come see you. And he said, okay, no worries. He said, we said our goodbyes, essentially. His mind let go in that conversation. So if you can go see her, if that's what she's asking for, and she's really, truly getting close to death, it's helpful to go see her. But then you can also have conversation where you say, hey, look, I don't know that I'm going to be able to come see you again. Is there anything that you would like to talk to me about, before I leave? Because that's one of the things I did with my stepdad. So is there anything that we need to talk about before I leave? Because you'd like them to empty out whatever thoughts are in their mind, whatever conversations they haven't had yet, you would like them to empty all that out so that by the time they get to death, there's nothing else that's holding on.
Because it was interesting that she would ask about me when she knows how to reach me as well.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And that's the other thing is you can decide for yourself that if she knows how to reach you and she hasn't reached out, then you don't need to go see her. And maybe this is what she needs in order to be able to let go. But you also have to ask yourself that if she dies and you don't see her, how would you feel about that?
Okay, that's I know that's my craving for her permanence.
Right, because you've got to get rid of your cravings too.
Right.
And if you have a craving to go see her, and if she dies, you wouldn't be able to fulfill that, then maybe you would like to go see her just to fulfill that.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm. You're welcome. All right. Let me see if we have any questions online here. Right, I don't see anything online. Okay, so I'm going to just end our course with this little talk that I usually give at the end of each course, where you can learn about continued support on the path to enlightenment and integrating the teachings into your day-to-day life. The way that you integrate these teachings is that you'd like to be attending weekly classes, either in person or online, and then taking in-depth learning opportunities like this on a case-by-case basis, on a as-needed basis, because you're going to need to trickle these teachings in to your mind. If you just spent this time here in the last 5 days learning and that's it, okay, we've had a great time together, but it's integrating the teachings and continuing to learn them and develop them that's going to help you, because there's certain things that you don't know yet. There's certain things that you're not understanding about the path that you're going to need continuous growth and development on the path. So by allowing your mind to slowly learn these on a weekly basis, either in person or online, and then attending in-depth classes like this on an as-needed basis is what's going to help you to build up your wisdom and understanding of the teachings. I definitely recommend that you read this first book, only about 10 to 20 minutes a day. The first book is Developing a Life Practice, The Path That Leads to Enlightenment. This is where you're really going to get your foundation. And some students stick with this book for a year or so. They read it multiple times because it's not the kind of book that you just read for completion and you finish it in 2 weeks and you set it aside, because you need to independently verify the teachings that are in here. So you'd like to just read 10, 15, 20 minutes a day. It's kind of like taking a small bite of pizza and slowly chewing it, and then it's easier to digest. Whereas if you take a real big bite where you sit down and read for an hour or two, you're not going to be able to digest it so easily. So the goal isn't just to get to the end of the book. The goal is to be able to understand it and be able to independently verify it and then apply it in your day-to-day life. So you can get this book through our website for free. You can get it by taking it and go printing it if you like, or you can get a version here by reimbursing us for our printing cost, or you can get it on Amazon. But you'd like to be able to slowly read that first book. Then you'd like to be practicing generosity daily. This is a frequent practice. The Buddha teaches you to practice generosity each day, regularly, because that's training your mind to let go. Frequency is more important than the amount. So if it was a matter of giving $500 once a year to an orphanage or $1 a day, you're going to see more benefit in $1 a day because the mind's having to more frequently let go. So throughout your day, you would like to be practicing generosity, because when there's craving, desire, attachment in the mind's going to be holding on. It's going to become somewhat selfish. So you would like to be able to practice generosity on a consistent, ongoing basis, sharing your time, effort, energy, and resources. Then you'd like to be able to improve your moral conduct. There's certain moral conduct that you have right now that is harmful, that is unwholesome, and you would like to be able to improve that. And it's the Eightfold Path that's going to help you to do that. Right speech, right action, and right livelihood. So understanding the Eightfold Path will help you to be able to improve that. Then you'd like to build up a meditation practice of 2 or 3 sessions per day for 30 minutes. And this can take you 6 months, a year, even 2 years to gradually build up to that. So this is what you would like to gradually build up to, because that's going to help you to build the qualities of mind that you need to do to go out into the world and practice those on a day-to-day basis. Then, as needed, you can seek guidance from a teacher. There's 4 ways that you can get help from me. You can ask questions in a live class. You can post in our Facebook group. You can send me a private message, or you can schedule personal guidance where we can meet in person or we can meet online one-on-one. Because it's one thing to learn in a class, but it's a whole other thing to apply it in your day-to-day life. So this is how you can slowly be integrating the teachings into your day-to-day life. And then the way that I help you to be able to do that is I provide you all these resources, that there's books, audiobooks, videos, podcasts, quizzes that you can access through our website. These are all available at no cost. Then there's in-person and online classes, courses, and retreats that you can also access through our website. And you can learn here in Chiang Mai, or you can learn online. And I also travel around in different parts of the world. And whenever I travel around, the classes are always available at no cost. So this year, coming up in 2026, I'm going to be in India, Nepal, San Francisco. I'm going to be in Dallas, Texas. So these are all places that I'm going to be teaching, and it's always available at no cost. And of course, my home base is here in Chiang Mai, but as I travel around, if you guys see me in a certain area, you're always welcome to come at no cost to be able to learn and develop. There's these 2 ongoing programs, which the group learning program is in person here in Chiang Mai on Sundays and Wednesdays, but I also live stream it, so it's available online as well. And what I do is each Sunday, I go chapter by chapter in this book, helping you guys to understand. This Sunday, I'm going to be in chapter 17, which is titled Eliminating Fears. Are you really scared? I'm going to teach you how to eliminate fears. There's specific training that you can do to be able to eliminate your fear, because by the time you get to enlightenment, you don't have any fear at all. Not even fear of your own death. So each Sunday I go chapter by chapter, and you can start this program at any time. And then on Wednesdays, I do meditation with students, helping them to do meditation, and then I just open up to whatever questions you guys have. We're going to be restarting this program on January 4th, which is about 2.5 months from now. But again, you can start it wherever you like. You don't need to start at the beginning, but it's kind of nice to start from the beginning. But I've had students come in the middle and at the end at different times, so you can really start at any time. And then after you've done the group learning program, which is a really nice foundation for you, then this Words of the Buddha, the Pali Canon and English Study Group, this takes you through volumes 2 through 13 of the book series, and that's a 1.5-year program. The group learning program is about 7 months, and sometimes people even take that more than once, but then eventually you have this program that's going to help fill in the framework for you. Where the group learning program kind of helped you to develop a foundation or a framework, the Pali Canon and English Study Group helps you to fill that in over a 1.5-year time frame. And we're actually going to be restarting that at the beginning of January too. That is coming to an end. But again, you can start this program at any point. You don't have to start at the beginning. You can really start at any time. And then as you would like to have personal discussions in person, you can just send me a message if we're in the same town together, and we can coordinate a time and place and location to connect. But if you'd like to meet online, you can just get on our website and you can schedule an appointment. You'll see there's a little app there that allows you to schedule an appointment, and then we'll meet in Zoom. And then there's the Facebook group where you can go in there and you can actually post questions, and I'm the only person who answers those questions. And then sometimes people like to get in there and actually see other people's questions too. You can learn that way as well. So these are the options for you of how you can learn, and it's always offered at no cost. It's always available to you. Okay. So any questions here about integrating the teachings or continued support?
I just have a question. When you are traveling, do the weekly sessions continue?
Usually, yes. It just depends. Like when I'm in India and Nepal this year, I'm going to probably invite the students that are here to be able to come here and still have class, where they would be able to show previous classes that I taught on that topic. But typically what I do when I travel is the students will come in and they will set up a computer, and then I will zoom in to the regular classes here, and then I will just teach it from San Francisco, but I'll teach it here. So I've arranged my teaching schedule when I travel that allows me to still teach here, but I just do it through Zoom. And then if I can't zoom in for any reason, usually there's a video where I've taught that same exact class in the past, and they will play that and you guys can watch it here. Yeah, you're welcome. Okay. So what I'm going to do then, because it seems like that's all our questions and we've kind of come to an end, it's a little bit after 11, is just thank all of you guys for joining for the class. Thank you for your interest to grow and develop on the path to enlightenment. And if you guys would like to join any of these future classes, you're always welcome to do that. They're always available for you at no cost. And at the same time, I would also like to thank you for anything that you've done to practice generosity while you're here. If you've taken out the trash, if you've cleaned the toilets, if you've vacuumed, if you've done anything here, maybe you've put some financial support in the box back there to help us pay for lights and electric, or maybe you bought me food or something like that. I really would like to just share my appreciation with you for practicing generosity, because that allows me to be able to continue to share the teachings with you and countless other people. I never have the expectation that a student will practice generosity with me. I'm always here to share these teachings without any expectation of anything in return. But I like to just say thank you for any generosity that you have practiced. So thank you so much. And then I'd also also like to offer you guys a little bit of a gift. At the end of each one of these classes, I usually offer you guys a nice little gift that this picture of the Buddha that I use, it's a pretty rare picture because it depicts the Buddha of how he actually looked during his lifetime, where most of the statues and pictures that you see of him, it shows him wearing a crown on his head. And this isn't actually the way that the Buddha walked around. It also oftentimes shows him with very elaborate and decorative fancy clothing on. And the Buddha didn't actually wear those kinds of things. He wore simple clothes like this, these rag robes, and he shaved his hair like this. And I think it's really nice to be able to humanize a Buddha. Sometimes people prop the Buddha up almost like he's a god or something like that. And he never described himself as a god. He described himself as a human being. He came into the world through the womb of a woman, so we know he was a human being. And by humanizing a Buddha, it helps you to be able to see that if he got to enlightenment, you can too. If we prop the Buddha up really, really highly, then sometimes people think like, oh, he can get to enlightenment, but we can't. This isn't true. You can get to enlightenment. So humanizing a Buddha is really nice. So what I like to be able to do is give you guys an opportunity to be able to get a picture where I have the same picture that's back there on the wall, that's a really big one. I have them in a smaller version that you guys are welcome to take them with you if you like. I have plenty of them. I have some rolled up here in this tub up here, and I have some back there as well, that if you guys would like to take one with you, you're more than welcome to. And you can keep it for yourself, or you can give it away to somebody else if you like. Perhaps you might even put it on your wall somewhere to be able to remind you to meditate. Or maybe it reminds you to practice right speech or something like that. Maybe you're on the phone with your mom and you get a glimpse of that picture of the Buddha and it reminds you to practice right speech or something like that, right? So if you like one of these pictures, I think it's a really nice way to humanize the Buddha so you can see that he's human just like you and me. And just like he got to enlightenment, you can too. And it might actually be a nice reminder for you to be able to remember to practice meditation or right speech or something like this. So if you like this, you guys are more than welcome to come up here and get one. They're rolled up, so it has a nice little rubber band around it. And if we run out of the ones that are here, I have some more that are back there that we can use as well. So again, thank you all for anything you've done to help out while you're here. If you guys would like to go out to lunch together and have a nice group lunch, I can recommend some places that we might consider. But whatever you choose to do today, have a very wonderful and lovely rest of your day. And as you guys would like to learn more, you're more than welcome to do so. So take care and be well. Sawadee khap. Sawadee khap. And for those of you guys that are online, these pictures that I just mentioned, they're on our website. If you go to buddhadailywisdom.com, click on free books, and you scroll down towards the bottom, you'll see these pictures. You can download them to your phone. You can print them or anything like that.
Thank you again for watching. Enjoy your meditation. Look forward to seeing you online and answering any questions that you might have. Thank you so much.